Top of the morning to ya. It's Jess from Norway. Tell me everything. That was horrible. I feel like it somehow morphed from really bad Irish to like Irish Jamaican. Let's try it again. G'day, mate. No, that was really bad. Let's rewind. Hi, I'm Jess from Norway. Tell me everything. Or if you hated that intro, you probably are saying tell me absolutely nothing and you've logged off. But otherwise, hi, welcome back. Today we have another, I'm going to just call them solo episodes from now on, because if you've been around, you know that mini is not a thing that I'm able to do. So welcome back. Today, I'm going to talk about the topic I tried to talk about in my last solo, which was your perception creates your reality. And the reason I want to talk about this is because I think it's one of the most powerful concepts to grasp or to at least try to work towards in terms of changing your mindset, calming your nervous system, going after your opportunities, embodying the things you want to embody. All of that kind of is anchored in this knowing. But a lot of how I see it explained, I feel like, is really ethereal. It's not grounded. It's really hard to wrap your mind around. And it's probably because it's rooted in quantum physics, which is a fascinating subject. But it's, again, very it's a mind fuck. So today I'd like to try to anchor it down into a little bit more of a grounded version. And so I hope my guides will help me doing that because there's going to be some rambling. And I also wanted to talk a little bit more of some of the witchcrafts that I'm doing, because it is witchcrafting season. There's a chill in the air. There is wet on the grass when I walk through it. It's lovely. It is my favorite season of the year. And I have had a new energetic visitor coming into my life the past weeks, maybe because of this eclipse season and what I'm being asked to do here, what we're all being asked to do here, shedding, transforming. But this new energetic visitor has come in. And I want to talk a little bit about what I do when it comes to my altars and my offerings. There are not a lot of witches that I know personally to share this information with. So guess what, captive audience? I'm sharing it with you. So let's start off. I won't be crafting while I do it today. So again, hang in. Could be real yappy. I now have 3 altars because I have had a very special guest come back into my life who I have missed him. I'll tell you a bit more about him. He is not the easiest house guest, but his lessons are amazing. So for Madame Persephone, Miss Persephone, the lady, I have given her some lovely new yarrow and butterfly bush flowers. I always associate butterfly bush, any kind of purple flower, with Persephone. It smells delightful. They smell like lilac. Maybe they're in the same family. I think they kind of look similar, but I've given her that. This is the time where she goes down into the underworld. So I've also put back up her crystal quartz geode that kind of reminds me of maybe what the underworld looks like. And then I have given the lady a white chocolate and raspberry flødeboller. Flødeboller. Some of you are thinking, are you okay? Are you having a stroke? What is that? That would be the word for that little chocolate thing. If you're Danish, you definitely know what they are. If you live here, you definitely know what they are. But they're basically like a little wafer cracker that there's marshmallow fluff that's either vanilla flavored or, in this case, actually I think it's pink lemonade flavor. I thought that was fun. On top of the wafer. And then it's coated in a really thin layer of chocolate. And then you just shove the whole thing in your mouth if you can, because it's really messy. But they are delicious and we eat them a lot here. So those are the things that I've given for Persephone. For my main lady, Aphrodite, there was a beautiful new rose in my garden. So I have plucked her this beautiful new rose with the permission. The other thing that I have made for her are these little adorable apple jellies in the shape of a heart. So what I did was I took some of Martha's apples and juiced them. And this is a super simple recipe. If you liked Jell-O as a kid, or you like any sort of jelly dessert, this is a great recipe. You can do it with any fruit juice. I did it with apple. But you take 1 cup of apple. Because it's for Aphrodite and I associate with her with love, I added some vanilla, and it's really good, trust me. So I added vanilla. You don't have to do that. I added honey as well. You can use sugar, but honey works great. I would say start with a tablespoon. Start with a tablespoon and then test it out. Try it. And then it's 3 tablespoons of gelatin if you like a really hard jelly. I've used 2.5 for the ones I have, and that's perfect for me. Anything less is a little too fall aparty. Now let's talk about my special guest. My special energetic guest that joined me. I only really realized it this week, and I think that's why he was having a temper tantrum, but is Loki. Loki is probably not one that most people think of giving offerings to or wanting to work with, because mainstream media, the mythology, everything really paints him as almost evil. I mean, in Christianity, scholars normally equate him to Lucifer or Satan. I don't feel that way from him. And this is, again, why I'm constantly telling people, if something feels differently to you, go with your experience of it. Because there are a lot of people who also, I've found out through my years of working on and off with him, do not feel that energy from him. Now, what I feel that they do get right about his energy is it is chaotic, and trickster, prankster, those are accurate descriptions of the things that he does. I feel like whenever I've worked with him, he kind of always heralds his arrival by all of these little inconveniences, things disappearing and then randomly showing up when you ask for them back or give an offering, little tech glitches, little things going wrong here and there, just being just slightly missing the train or slightly missing your class. And I know if you don't believe in any of these things, I'm sure there are a few of you who are like, that's just normal shit, Jess. So I get it. That's your experience with it. I'm not expecting everybody to understand what I'm talking about, but I know there's a few of you who know about working with the energies that are like, yeah, stuff like that with different, like there's different ways that different energies show up too. And also, if you know how I feel about honoring and working with these different energies, I do call them by their names, like Aphrodite, Persephone, Loki, but I think of them more as energies. And I think generally from a world point of view, my current consensus is that a lot of the different cultures have variations of these energies in their own way of telling them that fit with their culture, the time that they were written. And I think, as I always say, you have to question everything as well, because I'm just going to say it. I know that there's going to be some people who are unhappy about this, but I'm going to say it anyway. These stories, including the Bible, including a lot of the other Abrahamic religious texts, they were written by people in times where there was a lot of unexplainable things. They didn't have science, but they still had the same abilities that we have, psychic and otherwise, intuition, that kind of stuff. And these energies still existed. These are the ways that they use to explain those occurrences, everyday life. And I think you need to look at them with that lens. Because, for example, when you start to look into the Bible and the books that are written in the Bible, if you're not questioning some of the things that are written in there, I feel like that's a huge problem, because there are some horrific things written in the Bible. And I think when you look at it with the lens that the people who wrote these books, the versions of the Bible we have, like the King James Bible, were written by people also with agendas, and sometimes political agendas and monetary agendas. And they were written by men. So they were very much written in a time when women, LGBTQ, people of color, they did not fit in with the worldview that the people writing these books had. It's the classic, the victor writes the story tagline, if you will. So all of that being said, I'm not saying that things in any of these books or any of these mythologies are not correct here and there, or that the lessons are not valid, but I don't think there should be any piece of information or text like this that you take at face value. I think you should be questioning what resonates with you and what does not. Because like I've said before, I think Jesus sounds like an absolute G. I would absolutely buy a digital course from that guy. But a lot of the other things I don't think are worth carrying into where we are. And unfortunately, a lot of people in this day and age use those texts as a reason to rule over and make life more difficult for people that don't fit into their very specific worldview. And it seems insane to me, because that book was written so incredibly long ago. Like, we watched Friends and we go, that was a good show, but some of this stuff did not age well. Why are we not doing that with other stuff? Or, You go to dinner with grandma and you're like, man, grandma had some great stories about her childhood, but like, she's a little racist, right? You know, like it's okay to say those things. You're okay to have difficult, complex views about things. Not everything is black and white and not everything is simple. You're allowed to hold complex views. People are allowed to be gray. All of us are gray. I actually just finished reading this book, Circe by Madeline Miller, which is a retelling of the myth of Circe from the Odyssey, which was originally told from Homer's point of view, from Odysseus's point of view. And this book is from Circe's point of view. And it's a really beautiful book. There's some interesting themes in there. And one of them is around this thing of when you write about heroes, you write the good things about them. There's not very many nuanced versions of those people. It's the people who knew them, who can look at them without the rose-colored glasses. And that's okay. They can exist in both spheres. It's not just good or bad. No one is that way. I think that that's a really important lesson that we need to look at ourselves with and at other people with, is that you have the ability to change. You have the ability to be a better person if you want to be, or be a different person. You have the ability to evolve. We're very much like clay. We are meant to continuously be changing shape if we want to. You can always remake clay. You just have to add more water, knowledge, experiences, whatever you want the water to be. You can always remake clay. The problem becomes when you decide that you're done and you harden and you decide that that's it. That's your final shape. Because your final shape is not who you have to stay. That's the shape that you were built into, that you were poured into. That's what your life experiences have done. They've created this shape for you. You can always change that shape and you can continue to change that shape. I know I'm going very far with the clay metaphor here, but it's just to say that we should be constantly evolving, constantly changing, as should our understandings of the world as we grow and expand, meet more people, have new experiences. And I haven't talked at all about what I've done for Loki, going on for 15 minutes, but you know how these rambles go. There's got to be someone who wants to hear this because I don't know how I ended up here. Be moldable clay. All right, let's talk about my dude Loki. So Loki came tearing into my life. Looking back on it now, he's been around for maybe like 2 or 3 weeks, and I've missed the signs because I've been so focused in one direction on one project I'm working on that even my husband started throwing things around. Like he was like, oh, it's been a while since Loki's here. And I was like, yeah, he hasn't been here in a while, and then just kept going. And in hindsight, clearly, my husband, who is not psychic and does not work with Loki or energies or anything, what a weird thing for him to say, right? Out of nowhere, after like a year. It was strange. I see it now. All of the other signs were there too, but it really smacked me in the face Wednesday. So, and today's Friday, for those of you wondering. Friday the 12th. What I did for him on Wednesday was I baked him a very gooey chocolate cake. I gave him a piece of chocolate cake. You can read about the things that Loki likes. I like to read about them to know about them, but then also use your own discernment, like what feels right to you. I put my Pickle Rick little toy up on his altar because I feel like he likes that. That's kind of his humor. And then I also brewed him a cup of black coffee. So that was my first offering. And then that day I went out to lunch with Elena, and I had asked him for a sign. I asked him to see a dandelion. That's usually my sign with Loki. But if he wanted to work with me, show me a dandelion. So we went to an old bookstore. There's this antique bookstore here. It's gorgeous. And we were just browsing through some books. And in the middle of the history aisle, on top of some other books, kind of out of shelf, was a very, very old, from like 1915, old Danish mythological book. And it was Norse mythology, of course. So I was like, well, that's not a coincidence. So I picked it up, I flipped it open. It opens right to the page on Loki and who he is and his myths. So that was pretty much confirmation enough for me. I picked up the book. I was like, obviously getting this. And then I walked around a bit more, looking at different books, found some lovely books there. And then I was in the topography section, which is maps. For all you idiots, just kidding. I only know that because I looked at what was in that section. But topography is maps. And I was looking through there. And on top of other books, again, same kind of position as the other one, was a very random book by a dude that I don't know, who's Danish, that was called Mælkebytteruden. I think that's also, are you okay, Jess? I'm fine. I'm just speaking Danish. And it was about, it's literally called the dandelion root. and it was him with his car, and it was just all dandelions all over. So I obviously was like, hey man, welcome back. I really missed you. Listen, working with Loki is not a joke. He is the tower moment in the tarot. He tears your shit apart, but in the best way possible. If you are brave enough to go through that trial by fire with him, it always ends up being really good. And he works a lot with me on my abandonment issues, which have been flaring up a lot. So it makes complete sense that he would pop back in to help me. And I've already seen some changes. Jesus, I can't talk. Thank you, guides. I obviously am connected right now. I've been working a lot on those things. And so it makes sense that he would come back in. So today I poured him a shot of whiskey in a crystal glass. I gave him a dark chocolate fleur and I picked him some flowers. Loki likes unconventional flowers, things that you wouldn't just buy in like a bouquet or something. And I usually associate him with yellow flowers, but it's not quite the season for dandelions or yellow flowers. So I went in my garden and picked some that I think are really beautiful. I got him some yarrow because despite his reputation, I feel like he is a healer for me. So I got him some yarrow and then butterfly bush as well and goldenrod. There was a beautiful big goldenrod in my front yard in my wildflower bed. So I got him the goldenrod. And I've put some stones around and I gave him my old frog bones. He's often associated with death and rebirth. So I feel like the frog bones would work well for him. I think he'd like that. Some pyrite, onyx, a fossil, that's a snake. And and then I opened up this Norse book to the Loki section. So I've left that for him. And I'm not going to do it on today's podcast because I don't have all of the supplies that I need, but I'm going to consecrate a candle and burn that for him as part of my connection to build the energetic connection with him. So consecrating a candle, if you're not a witch and you just want to consecrate a candle because it smells good, girl, have at it. It's a lot of fun. I'll tell you how to do it. But if you're doing any work with deities or energies, or you want to tie to a specific intention like abundance or joy or something, you can consecrate a candle. I think it's generally called candle magic. I like to do it. It's one of those like calming crafts for me, and you get a really beautiful, nice smelling candle out of it. So the first thing you're gonna want to do is pick out either herbs or essential oils that connect with you and the intention you're trying to create. So I'm not going to tell you what that could be because I think you should feel into them yourself, but I'll tell you what I picked for Loki. So I went through my essential oil bag. I always associate Loki with cinnamon. So I got him some cinnamon oil, cedar oil as well, frankincense, and an apple. If you don't know any of his myths, some of these are kind of connected to that, but those are all the scents that I'm going to basically put on my candle. So what you do to consecrate, or I shouldn't say what you do, what I do to consecrate a candle, I get a candle. You can choose a certain color. I'm going to buy a red candle or an orange candle later. Loki is, one of his myths is about being born out of fire, out of a lightning striking a tree. So those seem tied for me, but you can pick any color. If you're doing joy, for example, I like using yellow for joy, blue for healing, purple for spirit, black for protection, white for purity, whatever you're trying to do, green for abundance. All right. So get your candle. You want to cleanse it. So you can use smoke, you can use water, you can use sound, you can use whatever way resonates with you. I use smoke. I will cleanse the candle. I'm also going to cleanse this little pointy pick thing. I think it's technically a cake tester, but it's what I use when I'm carving talismans into candles. You can use a knife, you can use anything. Be careful with whatever you use. But then I'm going to also cleanse this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drip the oil onto the candle. It's essential oil. So if you're using oils, like one drop each. You don't need a ton. Also, you don't want to create like a flaming torch. If you're using herbs, you're going to want to have at least one essential oil to rub on the candle because then you're going to roll the candle in the herbs. I will caution, if you're using herbs on your candle, you're going to really need to pay attention when you burn it because some of those herbs could catch fire and you don't want to start a fire. So don't leave it burning in a room if you're not paying attention to it. But if it's a kind of candle magic where you're like staring at the candle, doing divination or something, it's fine. So drop the oil on there. Then you're going to want to, well, I hate telling you how to do a ritual or a spell or whatever because I think it's so connected to what resonates with you. So I'm just going to tell you my experience. Please deviate from this. Please do whatever feels right to you. I put them onto the candle, and then I generally have already created a circle that I'm in. Um, and then I will rub them on the candle with my hands as I imagine my energy intentions going into the candle. I usually end up saying some words, whatever comes to me. If I'm like in the case with Loki, I'll probably say some words around asking him to help me deal with my abandonment issues, to shed what needs to be shed during this period so that I can step into a new version of myself, to leave behind the wounds that made me into the version that I am today. Something like that. Whatever kind of comes to me. I find that when I'm in the circle and I'm working with the energy, words just pour out of me. So I hope that happens to you too. It's super magical. But you do that. And then I'm going to use this pick thing. Use whatever your carving tool is. If you're really ceremonial, you can use a ceremonial knife. I don't have one. I use my cake pick. It's very precise, though. I will say that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to carve Loki's name in Norse runes onto the candle. Probably vertically makes the most sense for me, I think, in there. And while I'm doing that, I might hum, I might sing, I might say something. Just be in the process. Just do whatever comes to you. And then, like I said, I'll put it on his altar. I'll burn it in an offering, let it burn for a while, and then I'm going to go blow it out. All right. As usual, this section ended up being a lot longer. Just the whole thing is what it's going to be called. Okay. Let's talk about your perception creates your reality. Now, this is based in quantum physics. If you're kind of new to quantum physics, it is technically a theoretical branch of physics, but it is accepted within the scientific community as, I don't want to say fact, because science changes all the time as our understanding changes and our measurement tools change and whatnot. But it is accepted as a credible branch of physics. And it has been proven to explain a lot of phenomena that hitherto have not been explained. So basically, some of the mainstays of quantum physics that you've probably heard are time is not linear. All things are happening all at once. It's our perception of time that says this is the beginning and this is the end and this is linear. Also that everything is energy. So everything is always connected. Everything is always moving. Everything is able to enter each other's fields. Those kind of things. Those are all quantum physics. So your perception creates your reality is based on a quantum physics theory. And basically what it says is that all possibilities are available at all times, and you're the one who's choosing what you end up perceiving. And if you're watching the feed and you're like, hasn't she worn that shirt 3 times? Yeah, I've worn it way more than 3 times. I wear the same clothes all the time. I'm a Taurus. I like comfort. I like the things I like. Worry about your own biscuits. Anywho, so if you are constantly expecting the worst, your brain is trained to focus on looking for the negatives in things. That's why people who talk a lot about mindset work or mindset shifting, they talk about shifting your mindset from a negative to a positive state. So the more you do that, the more you're likely to notice the positive versus the negative. And if you haven't tried that, that's such a simple way to get started. When you notice that you're starting to focus on something negative, catch yourself and find something positive to focus on instead. There's some people who don't like this method because they think it's bypassing. I don't think it's bypassing if you're doing it responsibly. But that's when people want to pick apart something. That's another great example. If you're seeing ways to make yourself feel better and all you do is talk about why that can't happen or why it's not going to work for you or why it's not a good idea, that is you focusing on the negative. Just a little tip there. Okay, so a lot of times what you're seeing now when people are talking about your perception creates your reality is they're talking about building the life of your dreams with that learning. And I think it's a mind fuck of a learning to understand because your brain is so focused on the constraints and the possibilities that are actually in front of you that it can't imagine anything else. So if someone says to you, well, you're the architect of your life. You build the life that you want. Your perception creates your reality. It all sounds very okay, crazy. I don't have as much money as you, or I don't have as many opportunities as you. I had all these things happen to me that you didn't have happen to you. It's not possible for me. That's a perfect example of why you will stay where you are. And The thing I want to get across, though, is that it's not your fault. There's nothing wrong with you. It's not something to fix in you, but you do have to fix the way you're thinking. You have to fix your thoughts because, as many people have said before, your thoughts are not you. But you can control if you let them run out of control or if you redirect them. And the more you redirect your thoughts in whatever way you want them to go, you will see. You will see change. You will see possibilities. You will see steps forward. I really don't like when people make everything sound like a super quick fix. And I understand to a degree that the way that we've built the world within social media, attention spans, all of that great stuff is very keyed into how quickly can I do this with minimum effort. And I don't really follow that. And it's also because I'm not a snake oil salesman and I don't want to be giving advice to people and telling people stuff that benefits me without being realistic of what it's going to take for them. And so I'm doing that with you too. These are incremental changes that you make, but they end up adding up. It's like rolling a snowball down a hill. Let's say across a lawn. Let's not say down a hill, but it's a lawn, but it's a sloping lawn. It's a sloping lawn. It's one of those like 2-story houses where like the front is the front door, but the basement is also open to the lawn. Like one of those lawns. You know what I'm talking about? I spent way too much time talking about that. So basically imagine like you start off with this little snowball and then you start rolling it and you roll it and roll it. And as you roll it, it gets exponentially bigger and it starts to roll quicker until you have like a gigantic boulder of a snowball at the bottom. That's the way these kind of changes work. It's not like you could just decide, I am no longer going to expect the worst from everything. And then the next day, everything's fixed. You have, all these great opportunities coming in. Everything is perfect. And you never again go back into that space. That's not how it works. It's also not lasting change. Like, did you ever do one of those fad diets where you made a really big drastic change in your lifestyle and you lost a ton of weight, but then after a little bit of time, you gained everything back? And also during that whole time that you were on the diet, all you did was dream about Ben and Jerry's. That's a little bit how some of these big changes people sell you work. They're not sustainable and they're not going to keep you there. You're going to get pulled right back into your comfort zone. So the reason why you want to start to make incremental changes is because it gets easier and easier, and you will start to see things around you change as you change your mindset, as you change your thought patterns, as you perceive reality differently. It will start to align to that, but you have to give it time. You have to start making these incremental changes. So one way to make those incremental changes is to work on how your brain is working with your world around you. Are you constantly focusing on negative things? Are you constantly noticing everything that goes wrong in your life? Or are you focusing on the positive? Because it is very easy to say, oh, Murphy O'Malley, everything bad always happens to me. Well, I hate to break it to you, those things happen to everybody. The difference in people is there are people who understand that this happens to everybody and that in the grand scheme of things, it's not a big deal and you just get over it. You move on, you focus on a solution or letting go or whatever. You don't take them as big, woe is me, I'm a victim. Everything sucks in my life and nothing ever happens for me. And then there's people who do that. And I think we all know people who do that. And you might be a variation on the scale within that. You might not be all or nothing. We're all somewhere on the spectrum of that. But the people who you see kind of living these more happy lives where things don't seem to faze them, they've just mastered not focusing on all these negative things. And when you go out into life, little annoyances will constantly happen to you. What do you do with them? You're 5 minutes late, you miss the bus. Do you rage and get upset about missing the bus and having to wait 20 minutes for the next bus and now my whole day is ruined? Or do you go, okay, well, that sucks. While I'm here, I'm going to read this book that I never get a chance to read. I'll use this 20 minutes for me to do this. Or I'll answer those emails that I need to answer. I mean, I don't recommend do that. Enjoy life, but do whatever you want. It's how do you handle these little things, right? And the more that you handle them positively, also your nervous system will start to regulate, because that's another big piece of any co-creation, your perception creates your reality puzzle or formula, is that your nervous system will play into how your brain is seeing things, because those two are best buddies. Like, they are tight. But they're also like, were you like me? Where in class, like, you weren't allowed to sit next to certain people because you disrupted the class too much? That's your brain and your nervous system, right? If your brain is happy, and your nervous system will start to kind of come up there and meet it. And then they're the two studious kids in class that sit there and work quietly and help each other, and they're the teacher's pet and everybody's happy. But if one of those is upset, it will pull the other one down. And then they're the talkative kids in class that get in trouble and cannot sit together, right? And then you have a split. That also happens inside of us. And then your nervous system and your brain are not talking to each other. And that causes a whole different thing that we're not going to get into right now. But regulating your nervous system, one of the ways to do that is to start calming your mind that nothing bad is happening. Because your mind thinks in symbols and words, and your nervous system speaks in feelings. So when you miss that bus and you start to freak out about it, your nervous system doesn't know that you missed the bus. Your nervous system hears, oh my God, we're in danger. Something really bad has happened, and it starts to dysregulate and it goes crazy. So when you start to change your mindset about if things are actually a big deal, traffic, we all sit in traffic all the time. You can sit in traffic and rage about how many cars there are, rage that you get every single red light, or you can just go, all right, doesn't matter. It's okay. I'm fine. It'll be fine. If I'm 5 minutes late for something, it's not the end of the world. I know that's like a really scary one for a lot of us. For me also, like that, I have to be there on time. I can't be late. In our society, that's a huge thing. Everybody's rushing everywhere all the time. But when you start to calm your mind about it actually not being a big deal at all, it's fine, you might find that you actually enjoy the commute, and it's not as bad because you're not stressing the whole time. Your nervous system isn't constantly in this, I'm going to get in trouble, we're in danger state. It's just, oh, this is nice. I can listen to Jess's podcast a little bit extra because I'm in my car longer. That's my perception of what you're going to be saying. So that's another way that you can work on chilling out a little bit. Now let's talk about perception, creating your reality when it comes to being the architect of your life. All right, this is a deeper subject, and it's one that I still ponder at random times. It just comes out of the blue. I try to understand it a bit more. I'm going to try to ground it. We've talked about co-creation, where you're working with the universe and with yourself to create the life of your dreams. Manifestation is the other word for it. You can use them interchangeably. Your perception has to align with what you're trying to create. Because in the laws of the universe, in energetics, everything is energy. Everything is frequency. So if you don't perceive something as possible, you are not going to be able to vibrate at the energy of that thing. So when you do co-creation, you have to accept the fact that your perception creates your reality, and you have to work towards changing how you perceive things. So if I'm trying to give a grounded example here, let's say that you want to become an actress. If you do not perceive a way to do that, or perceive that it's possible for you to be an actress, you will, from a very, practical standpoint, never go after that dream, never take the practical steps that you need to take. Because again, manifestation is not gimme, gimme, gimme. It's, hey, this is what I'm going to work towards. Help me out. Let's do it together because I think it's in my highest good. And then the universe meets you as you go and amplifies your energy, right? They ease the path for you, but it's not gimme, gimme. So you do have to take practical steps. So from a practical standpoint, you will never take those steps to get there because your subconscious, your nervous system, everything inside of you, maybe even your conscious brain is dreaming of it, but thinks it's just a dream. That's where it lives. It lives in dreamland of your head, and it's never going to get out. So you have to actually work on changing your perception that is a possibility for you. Let's say you're a 35-year-old mom of two from Milwaukee. What I would do would be to look up, just Google ChatGPT. I hate recommending ChatGPT, but it's probably a good resource here. You can Google or ChatGPT asking it to find women in their 30s who became famous or became an actress or a singer somewhere in that Hollywood space in their 30s. Google something around that and see what comes up, because what you need to do is first convince your logical brain that this has happened for other people. The trouble you're going to run into is if you want to do something that other people haven't done because you're a trailblazer, and there's probably some of you out there. I actually believe that I have some dreams that are in that situation, and I will say those have been hard for me because I can't find anybody who's done it the way I'm thinking about doing it. So you have to find people who've done similar things, because what you need is that belief that this can happen. If you say, for example, I want to become an alien and fly to outer space, girl, that's something that you probably are going to have to learn to develop your psychic senses for, so you can do astral travel or listen to starseed people or something who have claimed to do things like that. Maybe that helps you, but that's one that's going to be harder. It doesn't mean it's impossible. I've just shown you that it's not. But you have to find this believability within yourself as like a first step. That's what I would do. Then the other things you kind of have to do are understand the next right step to do there. And I say next right step and not the path, because as we've spoken about before, and if you haven't listened to the co-creation episode and this is something that's sparking interest in you, you should go back and listen because we talk more about this. But you should definitely understand that the universe will open doors and pathways that you never could have imagined in your wildest dreams. So you don't want to get your brain stuck on how you feel it should go. And maybe it's not a traditional way that gets you there. So maybe you say, I'm going to sign up for acting classes because I think I'm a naturally good actress, but maybe there's something that I can learn. So you sign up for acting classes. Maybe you meet somebody and that person has an uncle who's a casting director. And his uncle was just at dinner 2 weeks ago and told him about this, reality kind of show that they're doing, but they need actors on the reality show, and they want to hire people who actually have the background of those people that they want, so that it's almost not acting, it's just them like being supernatural. And they need a 35-ish mom of two from the Midwest who's always dreamed of becoming an actress. And then you talk to this person and they're like, that's a perfect profile. And they put you in touch. Like, you never would have seen that coming, right? So you just have to know the next right step. And then you have to follow the nudges from the universe. So whatever feels good for you to do. The other things you have to do is subconscious unblocking, because let's just lay it on the table. It's the same shit I talk about all the time. You will not be able to perceive a different reality than what you know when you feel unsafe. When you're holding on to beliefs that you're not good enough or you don't deserve those things, or if you're holding on to a belief that the worst always happens. Because it is one thing to say you are the architect of your life and your perception creates your reality. It is another thing to believe it with your whole body and soul. We can consciously grasp a concept without being to actually embody it. And embodiment is the key to anything with co-creation. You have to start acting like, so taking actions towards, and also personality trait wise, you have to start to embody whatever it is that you're trying to do. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be confident all the time. You don't want to be acting in a way that's inauthentic to you, because that will work against you. Again, it's energetics. So it's like if you're wearing too small of a suit or something, it's not comfortable. It doesn't feel good. You want it off. That's how it's going to feel if you're acting inauthentically. And if you're trying to embody something that you haven't felt. Embodiment does play a part in that, because there are sayings like fake it till you make it, and they're not 100% wrong. I've embraced that a lot when I was in the corporate world, and it helped me out, but it also exhausted me, because I could be on in front of the people I needed to be on in front of. And then I would go home and drink and smoke and completely burn out on the couch, just not able to do anything, because I was chafing the whole time. So there is a little bit of credence to fake it till you make it, but fake it in the ways that feel authentic to you. So like if you want to start a business and you don't think it's possible that it'll be successful or something, you need to take the first practical step. You need to work on clearing the beliefs that are keeping you from feeling like it could be a success. You have to understand what success means to you. And you have to actually take nervous system regulation that it doesn't feel scary, because you won't take steps when your body's operating from that threat level 10, whatever the highest level of the threat level is. It's not going to take steps from there, and it will start to actively sabotage you. And the universe will also, I don't want to say sabotage you, let's call it redirection. The universe is always, always talking to us. It's always sending us signs. It's always sending us messages. We're just not aware of it most of the time. When you become aware of it, you'll see that if you're doing something that's not in alignment or is the wrong direction, they will send you signs and nudges and redirection away from what you're doing. A lot of times we're really stubborn. And so again, not to get stuck on that one path, you think that you need to go this way. So even though nothing is working, even though it's frustrating, even though you feel drained, even though you're crying, even though your mind is racing and you have anxiety and you can't sleep and it's all you think about because you need to make this work, nothing is working. Again, take a rest, take a breath, take a pause. You will get the information you need. And a lot of times what the information is not this way. Not this way. We're just not hearing it. And when you take that pause, you take that breath and you let go of what you're trying to control, what you're trying to create with control, that's when things start to fall into place and align. And it's this aha moment, this clarity of, oh, I need to do it a different way. And you have to trust the universe, right? Because a lot of times the different way doesn't make rational sense. You might know everything about data and analytics on performance of something, and you're looking at it and you're following all the guidance. You're following everything that works for everybody else, and it's just not working for you. It's because you're meant to do it differently, and you're not listening to yourself and you're not listening to the universe. So make sure that you're listening. So I feel like I've hopefully convinced you that your perception creates your reality is a valid concept, and that you're interested to try to do that more. If you're not trying to manifest or co-create anything, if you just want to feel better, not feel so heavy all the time, not have this feeling that everything is always against you, try it. Try the first step I talked about. Try that first simple step of just not focusing on that. Because scientifically, psychologically, that is what you're training your brain to do. Every time you notice the negative, you will walk into a room and the first thing you will see is the negative thing. Whereas when you train your brain to look for the positive, you'll walk into a room and the first thing you notice is positive. And as you do that more and more, it becomes more natural to the point that even when you notice something negative, you're just like, oh, that's okay. We'll figure that out. Like you just start to not really care as much. It's not as big of an inconvenience for you. And as with all things, when you're doing any sort of personal development, personal expansion, evolution, everything is so interconnected. So all the things that I've talked about today, all the things I've talked about in many of the other episodes, when you work on one, they start to affect the other. It's like imagining a big ball of yarn that has 55 million different threads on it, and they're all tangled together, and it might seem like this huge behemoth of work you need to do. What you need to do is just take a step back and focus on one string. And as you unravel that one string, the other strings will start to be more visible and you'll be able to see what you need to do. And then you maybe take a break and you work on a different string for that moment and go through it like that. There's also this tendency in the self-help personal growth space to feel like you have to work on everything. And that's a lot. And it's overwhelming for the best of us. So when you start to feel overwhelmed, I have 2 bits of advice. There's a just the tip in the end. All right, that sounded really dirty. When you feel completely overwhelmed, focus on just one thing. This is one way you can look at it. Focus on the easiest thing when it comes to personal growth and development. I like to focus on the hard thing, but that is not the easiest thing. So if we're going with 2 easy ways to look at it, go with the easiest thing. Find something that doesn't feel daunting, something that doesn't feel scary, and look at that one thing. And again, just take that next step. Don't look ahead and think, I'm going to have to do all of this stuff, or this is what's going to happen. We got to get out of that headspace. You have to focus on being in the now. Just as a general, an extra tip, we're double teaming it today. Focus on just the present. Focus on now. So just that one simple thing, and focus on the next step right now. And then when that step's done and you've integrated the lessons, you've absorbed them into you, you started to embody them in your daily life, then focus on the next step. It just becomes clearer as you take that next step. You can't go like running off in the distance. You'll get overwhelmed and you'll stop and you'll go right back in your comfort zone because it feels good there, but you're not going to grow there. The other thing is, when you're feeling overwhelmed with all of the stuff you feel you need to work on, ground and center yourself that nothing's broken. You don't need fixing. You just love yourself so much that you want yourself to feel good and you want yourself to feel the love that you have within yourself, which is the most important. To center and ground yourself with that. And if it helps for you to understand, a lot of the time when we feel like there are a ton of things at once we have to work on, in my experience, they generally stem from the same root issue. So they're all coming up at once because it's like coming from the root. So if you're able to identify your root issues, your root wounds, a lot of times you'll find that all the stuff that comes up at the same time is just because it's pointing you to that root. And when you work on the root issue, you will find that those other things start to disappear quicker. They start to fall back into line and it's not a big deal anymore. The main key point I want to make here is if you're feeling overwhelmed and you're feeling like it's too much, there's so much help around you. You can reach out to me. There's many other coaches all over. You can find anyone you want. You can get a psychic reading if you're feeling overwhelmed. I do psychic readings. There's many people who do psychic readings. Work with someone that you feel called to. A lot of times, if you're overwhelmed, having a little bit of support and guidance from your spirit teams is that thing that will make you feel more grounded and centered, in my experience, in my opinion. So if that helps you, do that. But don't let a feeling of overwhelm stop you from taking the next steps towards living the life that you want to live and being really happy and finding joy. And yeah, I've talked about that a lot too, but make sure that you're finding your joy. Your joy will always lead you where you're meant to go. So on that note, you are the architect of your own life. You create the circumstances that you live in by your perception of them. I'm not going to get into that last bit I just said. It is a deeper concept. Maybe I will talk about it at another time. It's a very nuanced topic and it's a very difficult thing to talk about for me personally right now with everything going on in the world, because I do feel there are insensitive ways to talk about it. And I want to make sure that I'm able to talk about it in a way that is not insensitive to the suffering that's going on in the world right now. But I hope that this was at least like an amuse-bouche for your perception creates your reality. Oh my gosh, I have to get my cards. I forgot. I haven't done a solo episode in a while. Let me grab my cards. I also hope that my fan isn't messing up the sound, but it's freaking hotter than Henry Cavill in here, so I needed something to cool me down. All right. Guess who my deck is by? I'll give you one guess and you'll be right. All right. Whoops. All right, let's see. I want to do another one. Was that meant to come out? Clapped back in my place. Don't ever question if a card is meant to come out if your guides are like mine, because they're going to be like, it came out, didn't it? Whoop, there we go. That one flew right out. Okay. Oh, I love these cards though. So cute. All right, so number 11, again, I think we got that one on the first solo episode, the butterfly spirit. But there is a lot of transformation going on right now. The other one we got is cow spirit, which is the miracles are endless, which I love because that's so much of what we're talking about here. All right, so I'm recording this on the 12th of September, which is right smack dab in the middle of eclipse season. And if you're feeling eclipse season like I am, it has been heavy. It's been heavy in the energies. It's been asking a lot of us. It's been winding up a lot of old wounds within us and asking us to relook at them, make sure we're letting go of what's not in alignment anymore. And I mentioned it earlier with Circe, which is probably why it came up then, but the vessel you were shaped into is not the vessel you have to stay. Your past does not dictate who you are in the future, and it shouldn't if it's not in your highest good. Because you've gone through things, it's given you wisdom, it's given you strength, it's given you something that you need for your journey, but it hasn't defined who you are. And you're holding on to personal concepts that you've internalized, usually done to you from other people's actions that are only projections of their own inner states. And you're letting these things define who you are. So you need to be careful with what you're identifying with. Because right now is a time of transformation, as the butterfly spirit tells us. It is a time to let go of the cocoon that you feel you are stuck in. Stop spending so much time staying in a state of waiting. It is almost time. I'll say almost because I don't feel the energy quite there yet, but it is almost time to break out of that cocoon and take your first flight as a butterfly. And it feels right now like a lot of us are resisting this. Maybe we're not understanding what this time is. Maybe that's what it is, but it feels like there's some resistance. And I get it because it is extremely hard to let go of things that almost feel like friends because you have carried them with you for so long. Identities, personal concepts, ways of being that you've identified with, that you've worn as armor, is what I'm hearing. You've worn these things as armor as you've gone through life, but you need to let go of that armor because the growth comes when you're open and when you're vulnerable. We spoke about this last time in the collective reading. The real strength lies in when you're able to be vulnerable. Oh, I just heard something beautiful. When the butterfly, I don't know if this is true. I'm going to have to look this up. When the butterfly comes out of a cocoon, it is extremely vulnerable. Its wings are extremely delicate in general, but those first few moments of life, its wings are extremely vulnerable, but it flies anyway. It flies with the trust and the knowing that this is what's right for it, that this is where its destiny lies. And I just heard that in my head, so I hope that resonates with some of you. And honestly, is that true? But even if it's not true, it's a beautiful analogy. When we go through a transformation, it can feel extremely vulnerable, but we have to do it knowing that this is who we are meant to be. So embrace butterfly spirit, embrace that change of transformation now while we're in the middle of eclipse season, because those of us who embrace the shedding, who embrace leaving behind old concepts, old versions of ourselves, and step into this new energy that's coming through, this new version of ourselves, this empowered versions, like this is telling the universe who we want to be in the next years, even, it feels like. This is the 9 year, so it's ending, and next year is a 1, it's new beginnings. And so you're basically, who do you want to be? Who do you want to be in this new year? And that leads in nicely to the cow spirit because the miracles are endless. Goes back to your perception creates your reality and what you think is possible. Anything is possible for you. Like the example I gave, even if you want to be an alien who goes off on spaceships, you can find a way to do that through astral travel. You just, again, it might not be the way that you think the miracle is going to play out. It doesn't mean it's not a possibility. The universe has endless miracles for you. The universe wants you to thrive. So if you're not thriving, guess who is the one responsible for that? It's not the universe. It's not God. It's you. It's not necessarily the loveliest message, but I hope you're not here from me, because those aren't the messages I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you what you need to hear. If you're not thriving, it's because you're the one who's holding yourself back. It's because you're the one who doesn't think that it's possible. You're the one who's stuck on these old versions of yourself. You are responsible for taking those steps. Universe isn't going to do it alone for you. Sometimes they might give you a boon. Sometimes they might give you a gift, put something in your lap. It's almost like a carrot for you of look at this miracle. Look what's happened. Do you now believe in yourself? Do you now choose yourself? Do you now see that the miracles are endless? Sometimes the universe will do that. Have you ever been at the absolute end of your rope? just in a situation where you know something has to change, but you're still waiting for someone to come save you? Have you had a situation where the universe has saved you in that last moment at the buzzer? The universe comes in and says, I got you. It's because the universe does not want you to fail. The universe will take you to rock bottom, and then they will help you climb back out again. Because if you look back on those moments when you were at the buzzer, when you were at rock bottom, you surrendered, or you maybe shifted something, or you took a small step. I guarantee if you look back, there is at least one small thing that you did that was that step that the universe needed to see from you. The miracles of the universe are absolutely unfathomably available and endless. When you're clear on what you want, when you clear out the cobwebs inside of you that are holding on to old things, that are making you feel like you've lost the shine and you can't do it anymore. When you clear all that out, and it doesn't have to be instantaneous, it can be a process. The universe is infinitely patient. We know divine timing is infinitely patient because it's frustrating for us as humans. The universe is patient. God is patient. Your angels, your guides, they're patient. All they want from you, all they're waiting for is for you to choose to get started. It feels like there's an urgency to this message. I'm hearing the time is now or never, and I don't think it doesn't carry a feeling of doomsday with it, but it feels very much like this is a closing of a chapter energetically, and the people who choose to make changes now are going to basically see exponential changes in the future. They're going to see bigger yields, is what I'm hearing. Because there's never a wrong time to change. There's never you're too late to change. But when you work with what the energy is communicating to you, that's when you're, it's like the Super Mario Kart games where there was like those arrows that you could drive over and they would make you go light speed. That's what it feels like right now. If you choose to drive over the arrows, you're going to lose control a little bit when you drive over those arrows. You're going to go hella fast and you're still going to be going in the right direction. And if you fall over the edge, the universe is the little star dude who's going to pick you up and put you back on the track. So, all right. On that note, the time is approaching for both this episode to end because it's hella long, but also for the energy activation class that I'm offering on the 24th of September. It's free. You can sign up via the link in my bio if you're interested. And then we're also going to be doing this Glow the F Up course starting in October, where we're going to basically be doing a lot of the stuff that I talked about today. It is my mission in life. It is what I love to do. It is what I love to help people with. And no matter what your goals are, if they're big goals, if they're just to take that first step and see what's possible for you or how you feel, also will be covered in this. It's whatever pace and scale you want to go at, but I'm here for you. I hope you check it out. I hope you enjoyed this solo episode and your double team that you got on Just the Tip there at the end. Jeez, I hope people on here have a good sense of humor about this stuff because I sure do. Anyway, and then on Tuesday of next week, I will be having an interview with Sissel. And Sissel will be talking about Kundalini activations and also her twin flame journey. So I hope that you will tune in for that. And otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful fucking weekend, everybody. Talk to you soon.